Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Caffeinated Librarians. This is episode 2 of our Would You Watch series, and today we're going to be discussing one of the greatest shows to ever come on television, and I don't care what anyone says, the contrary.
Ew.
The Wire.
Ew.
No.
Right?
No.
Ew.
I keep seeing that image of Stringer Bell saying, I want you to let them know we're back up. And I don't know, that's just powerful. I haven't even watched The Wire.
No, it's not The Wire. We are discussing Buffy the Vampire Slayer, more specifically the premiere episode of the show. So it's season 1, episode 1, Welcome to the Hellmouth. And for most of my colleagues, this was your first... Lou, I know you've seen the show.
I have. I'm acquainted.
But I'm going to assume that for everyone else, this was the first time watching, or maybe after a long time and you rewatched, or...
Yeah.
All right.
First time.
So I'm just going to give a quick
First time.
background about the show. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the show premiered on March 10th on the WB, 1997, and
Good year.
and it lasted 7
6.
seasons.
I was 7.
-1.
He wasn't even a thought.
Yeah, when this show premiered, Joe wasn't even here, but it's still a good show nonetheless.
If you believe in reincarnation, he might have been here. We just don't know as what.
Not that fast.
I guess I was like very elderly, you know. but-
Maybe. Oh, actually, that got dark.
You watched it on your deathbed. You were like,
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, just a brief background. It's about a 16-year-old girl named Buffy Summers who's descendant from a long line of warrior women known as Slayers. And the descent line doesn't work the way one would think. It's very random. A Slayer can be any nationality. They can't be any gender. I think, well, actually, they may have changed that. I think they made their
they
first...
just said girl.
Yeah, but I
Wait,
think
then-
in the comics they made their first guy Slayer.
But within
Wait,
the show,
wait, okay. Stupid question. Then what's Angel?
he's
Angel's a
vampire.
vampire.
He's a vampire.
Oh, I didn't
Spoilers.
pick up
That's
on
why
that.
he said
He's
I
the
don't bite.
sexy stranger.
I thought he said that because he was a
vampire.
vampire hunter.
I'm
Here I
he's a
am.
vampire
I
who
just,
hunts
I just
vampire.
ruined that for you.
That's
I'm sorry.
fine.
He's a vampire
Oh.
who doesn't like being a vampire.
Yeah.
No. He has a curse on him.
That's right.
She said he doesn't like being a vampire. I mean, he probably doesn't. Who would want to be a vampire? Actually, a lot of them want... Simone, continue.
No,
I-
So,
My
so,
friend
yeah.
Dracula is pretty into it, you know.
So I'm just, yeah. So anyway, so it's about a 16-year-old girl named Buffy Summers. She is a vampire slayer, and vampire slayers are essentially charged with keeping the balance between the forces of good and the forces of evil.
Because you know, everyone, obviously, that when the world is about to end, you want to call in a 16-year-old.
Worked for
To
like
save.
Sabrina. She was like what, 14? No, 16. She was 16.
The
she was
teenage
16.
witch?
All your Sabrina knowledge comes from the new one. That's very different. All right. In the sitcom one, she was just like, I don't know,
watched
using
the
magic
sitcom
to
one.
cheat
That
on
one was
tests.
just more daily life. Just
Continue, Simone.
No, so
She said no.
Good and evil. Good and evil.
The forces of good and evil.
so anyway, what did you guys think of the first episode? Be gentle. I love this show.
All right, I'll go first. A couple of things.
Okay.
I will say as somebody that watched the show. I watched the first 2 episodes. I think Joe also watched
I
the
did.
first
Yes.
2. Amanda did too. Did you
I
watch the
took
first 2?
Simona's
I watched the first
suggestion.
one.
Just the first one.
I just watched the first one.
These first 2 episodes are not a good indicator for the quality of the rest of the show.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yes.
Even just the appearance of it looked grainy.
It's so dated.
It looked, yeah. It looked,
So, genuine question: why hasn't the show like received like a
remake?
new scan or anything?
It has, but what I will say, they did, I'm going to say digitally remaster it because I don't know if that's the correct term. They did a lot of color corrections. What I will say is I've seen clips of it. it does a disservice to the original show because, and I understand, just piggybacking, and I'm going to address, they did do that. Piggybacking off of what Lou said, if you judge this show by the first season alone, you will never want to continue watching it. Unfortunately, the first season, they were still trying to figure out a lot of things. Even the dusting effect of the vampire changes
it gets
dramatically.
Much better. Yeah.
The acting even of extras improves. And I feel bad that we have to start on a poor note because the show from the second season on improves in leaps and bounds, even in the storytelling and what the characters experience. There's tremendous growth. So
I tend to agree.
Yeah, if you just watch this and you say, oh, this show is not worth my time, I would highly recommend you do watch it because the show was instrumental in a lot of regards. Buffy was one of the first shows with a female protagonist. Although Joss Whedon has fallen out of favor for legitimate reasons, the reason why he created the show was because he wanted to play with the trope of the helpless blonde that gets killed. So he wanted to subvert that trope. Yeah, the final girl. And the show dealt with...
Oh, no, not the final girl. They
Final Girl survives.
Sorry, my bad.
But the show dealt with a lot of things through the metaphor of the first 3 seasons is the metaphor of high school as being on a literal hell mouth, but high school is hell for many people. So it dealt with bullying. It dealt with domestic abuse. It dealt with sexual harassment. It dealt with a lot of things.
There's also that school shooting episode.
Yes.
That they actually filmed before Columbine.
Yeah, and they never aired it.
They did air it.
But they aired it much later. Yeah. So it celebrated its 25th anniversary, I think, on the 1st of this month. So I would highly recommend you do watch it. But going back to what Joe asked, yes, they did digitally remaster it, but it did a disservice to show because a lot of the coloring is intentional. Like there are scenes where they're supposed to be taking place at night, but the way they remastered it.
The one they have on Hulu is not the remastered version.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah.
It is.
So that
it looks like it was sourced from like an early 2000s DVD copy, and I'm sort of just like amazed Hulu has that up because it's just like
it was rough.
It can't be too expensive to get a 1080 scan of the originals.
Yeah.
Like,
So it looks like
I can go on Tubi and watch Columbo in pristine quality. Like, why is Buffy sort of languishing in 480p?
Yeah.
So
That was my question.
According
mainly.
to all the comments, there's a lot of YouTube videos of comparisons of like the remaster versus that. It looks like they also cropped it.
Yeah, they made it
remastered
16 by 9.
So
Yeah.
Like there
a lot
are
of people did not like it.
Because
It
there are
looks like
scenes
they're
where you see
adamantly
the crew.
hatred. Adamant hatred.
There's a scene like there's a epic, not an epic. I'll tone that down. There's a fight scene between the character of Faith, whom you meet in the 3rd season, and
Faith.
Buffy, and when they increased, I guess it was filmed in a certain
Slayer.
ratio, and when they changed the filming ratio, you can see the production crew filming the scene.
Yeah.
They're blatantly in the shot. So I've seen the remaster. I don't think it does any favors. I think they remastered Charmed a lot better than they did Buffy. The Charmed remastered, they took their time. With Buffy, they just sort of, they look like almost like there's a bright light constantly shine. Like even in scenes where it's supposed to be taking place at night, it's so bright you don't even know it's, So I understand what you mean about it looking dated. It was filmed in 97. It was filmed on TV.
I'm just, my issue is with Hulu's copy of it.
Yeah.
It's clearly a bad scan. And it's just like, why is there not a better scan of this?
Oh, I have the DVD, so okay. But
I mean, it's probably the same source. Like, those are probably the same copies they have on Hulu.
She's like, I have the DVD.
So if you ever, but anyway, continue.
So continuing.
Yeah.
So that was my first issue with it.
Mm-hmm.
My second issue with it.
Mm-hmm.
The acting. Which I will say, as somebody that watched the show, gets better. But boy, was it bad in this
The
one.
lines were so bad.
It was bad. I know Joe's going to talk about the lines too. It's funny you bring that up. But let me just, a couple of things about the acting. Xander was annoying. But my biggest thing, when I saw Angel,
Yes.
my reaction was, Angel, be cooler. I want you
The way
to
he
be
walked.
cool. Yeah, you look the part. You look cool. Be cool. He was not cool. He was like just the way he would deliver lines. Like the only line that was cool was when he said, when she asked if he's a friend, and he says, when she asks who he is, and he says he's a friend, and she says, I don't need a friend, he's like, I didn't say I was yours. That's the only line that he delivered cool.
He's trying to be mysterious, but
Yeah.
it comes off like just being an a-hole. I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, calm down. Like, she
Yeah.
pinned him to the ground, I think, either in the first or the second episode. And he's like, you're here. I thought you'd show up like a little, like, earlier. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you
Yeah.
want? You could have helped her. What do you want?
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, and you learn it in the second season.
For what? For how he delivers lines?
No.
I
I
also think Sarah Michelle Gellar
There's a-
is like whoever. I don't know who was
The-
the writer of the script.
No,
It's,
the writers,
Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
the writers changed dramatically. A lot of the writers in the first season are not present in the second season.
See, I didn't think anything he said was bad. I actually thought his lines were more natural than a lot of the other lines.
Yeah.
But
His delivery
his
is
delivery, I was
what
like,
you had
I
issue
was like,
with.
say it cooler, make your voice a little deeper.
What
Angel.
I say, he's actually one of the weakest actors I think on the show. A lot of the times
Agreed.
his acting didn't really impress me, and maybe it changed in other shows. But what I was referring to, he says, I thought you would have come sooner, or whatever. There's a reason for it, why he says that line. But yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. The
Yeah, I didn't
lines-
have any problem with what he said. It was how he said it,
Yeah.
and yeah, I wanted him to be cooler.
Yeah.
I really wanted him to be cooler, and he gets cooler, especially when he turns evil. Evil Angel is
They're always
is
the coolest characters
cool
when they turn
Angel.
evil.
We need like a cool guitar riff for Evil Angel, because he's been brought up a few times on this podcast.
Well, because when you learn about his character and his background, some of his behaviors make a bit more sense. But I understand what you mean. Definitely when he goes from Angel to Angelus, I think also, to be fair to the actor, he gets more to do when he's Angelus. In terms of like, a lot of the times, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. A lot of the times when he shows up, he's there, Buffy, something is afoot, and then he disappears. Like he's there for like, one line and then disappears.
He's like,
yeah.
my job here is done. It's like, but
Yeah.
you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Again, I want to clarify. I think he actually is acting. David Boreanaz's acting gets better
Yeah.
as the show goes along.
Yeah.
It's just in this episode,
Yeah.
in these first two episodes, when he's still mysterious
Yeah.
and you don't know who he is, I wanted him. I don't remember his acting being that bad in the first two
Mysterious
episodes.
guy in a
Yeah.
dark alleyway.
But he definitely gets better.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely gets better, and but yeah, I was like, oh man, like watching it, I was like, oh man, I wish he was like cooler in this.
Yeah.
Like I wish he was
I
cooler.
think the worst lines went to the head vampire.
Oh,
And this
the
one,
master?
I hated him. So every second he's like, oh, that's it? He's like, whatever. And I'm like, but every line that came out of his mouth sounded like the cheesiest thing I've ever heard come out of a vampire's mouth. I've watched so much vampire stuff. I I love the Lost Boys too, and that's cheesy as well. But like the head vampire, like all his minions are like talking in this like, we did it, master, yes. And I'm like, at least they're consistent in what they're talking, but the head guy's like, I've been asleep for like how many years? You didn't bring me in? He's like very like...
Was it the master or one of his minions who had the wisecrack about the eye or something?
I don't remember.
that was the master, and he says,
That made me a little angry because
Yeah.
I was like, why is it like
He's
a
very
thousands-year-old
sassy and
vampire
sarcastic.
being giving us some sass
Yeah.
right now?
He,
like-
the master,
he stabs the guy
master
with his- in
vampire
the
was
eye.
such a sassy person. I
he's
was
like, why didn't you?
Yeah, I couldn't remember
you
if it was
failed
him or a
me.
minion.
Why did you not say sorry?
well, why does that matter? It's like after a vampire that's been asleep for centuries, you'd think he'd still had like some language
Because-
barrier, but he was just like sassafras, 90s sassafras over here, just going. Why?
Well, he had a lot of time to catch up on stuff.
Well, that and I think I know what you're referring to. That's one of the things that bothered me too, where you have some vampires that will talk like ye olden times, and then there'll be vampires, or the same vampire will talk very modern. And considering that he's been underground for about 70 plus years,
I would
don't
have
know.
rather him just be like a hissing freak. Like,
But I think they
yeah,
modeled
just a real
him.
Nosferatu.
That's what I wanted.
But I forgot what they modeled, what they were going for. I mean, honestly, in terms of villains, he ranks as one of like the least threatening on the threatometer for me. Like when you look at the other villains that you'll meet in subsequent seasons, he's not the most fully fleshed out one. To be perfectly honest, but I kind of know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And and I mean the Rob Thomas haircut vampire. My
Luke?
God, he was
Luke?
annoying. The way he spoke, I couldn't stand.
Luke.
Yeah.
Sounds like he has cotton balls in his mouth.
Yeah.
I think that's just because of all the prosthetics
That's
and
the
stuff in there.
thing.
I just assume because the one thing I really enjoy about like when someone creates a vampire is how what kind of fangs are they gonna get? Are they just gonna be stereotypical? Are they gonna be like Anne Rice where they're like, literally 2 sets right there? Are they going to be like, full set? Like what are they gonna do? This one it looked like they just had some janky teeth. They had like the sharp edges on the front ones.
Yeah,
I was
the
like
Halloween ones.
it's interesting, but they look so huge.
Yeah.
I think they may have changed those a bit. And there's some vampires where
Made them
like
less scary to me.
yeah, where they'll they even changed the vampire makeup. It
Yeah.
evolved. They changed
Good.
that as well.
Good. That was one problem I
And
had
the
with it.
technology even got better because I remember in later seasons of the show, you actually see the vampires' faces change.
Yeah.
And
As
there's
you
not like
morph
that
in.
drastic cut like there was with Darla.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I thought that was hilarious. They're like, "Oh, what's up, girl?" And she's like pretty one second, and then she turns around, and she's like, "Rah!" And her face got like
Yeah.
way rounder
Yeah,
and
and
bigger,
her
she
height
looks
changed
so
too.
ugly.
Like she like dropped down. You could tell they changed the camera angle or something. And
Yeah.
yeah.
No, there are a
gnarly.
lot of like even the whole scene where Darla bites the guy. I was like, why is there such a delay between her turn and the man's response? Is you can see that the actor was not really and he was part of a
Can't
Law and
hear
Order
nothing.
SVU. No, Law and Order. I think he was like
Criminal Intent.
no, there was another one. I forgot what Law and Order he was a part of. That's where I recognized him from. But you can see the actor, even though it's a back shot, he's not reacting to the actress. And it's almost like, did you say cut? That's good enough. So, yeah, it's honestly, and a lot of fans of the show will say first season is the poorest in terms of quality and writing. It's unfortunate that that's the first one because if I were watching it for the first time, I know I'd probably quit after episode 1 too. Like, to be fair. But
See, that's the
yeah.
we say that now though, but like back then, obviously people did not stop watching. People kept watching.
No, obviously there was a lot of response to it, but I think it also suffered like in its early seasons it was changing networks. I think it changed time slots. There were a lot of issues. Like Sarah Michelle, the one who plays Buffy, was saying that she was 19 when she started acting in Buffy, and she was saying how people felt bad for her when she told them that she got this new project. So they thought it would not go anywhere, that it would be like maybe less than a season, and then she'd have to find something else to do. But that show kickstarted a lot of their careers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was. But Katie, what did? I know you already told me some of the things you thought about.
I mean, I can tell it was made in the 90s.
You could tell.
Yeah.
You can tell. Like from the hair to the costumes to the way they speak.
Allowing midriffs in the high school.
Yeah. The trope of the mean girl and the pushover, like the way Willow is portrayed in the first episode, which I know her character improves greatly as seasons go on.
Or Cordelia or
No,
Willow.
Willow.
Oh, no, I love Willow.
Willow was the only character I really liked.
I like that actress. Every time I
Allison
see her in
Hannigan's
something,
lovely, yeah.
Yeah.
she always plays the nerdy, adorable girl. I enjoy her. And I loved her in what is it?
American Wedding, American Pie.
I mean, the American Pie. She's adorable,
How I Met
and
Your
I
Mother.
love
Are
her.
you thinking?
Are
Are you thinking How I Met Your Mother?
Oh, she was her and Marshall's relationship was my favorite thing of the show.
I think the lines were. I thought the episode as a whole was rather corny, though I do have to say I love Giles,
Yeah, he
the
was the best
librarian
character.
of the series.
I
Which
thought his
was-
intro was really funny.
Yeah.
And
I know what you need. Bam,
It's a
vampire.
big book about vampires.
And
I got this
I
at the
want to
thrift
say
store.
that I recognized the character from something else I saw, and I couldn't remember. But then halfway through the episode, I was like, "Oh my God, you're Uther Pendragon from the show Merlin."
Yes, yeah.
So I was very happy that I remembered.
He's also the Repo Man in Repo the Genetic
Oh,
Opera.
yes. I love him in that.
Which people are now just kind of honing in on the music of again.
Yeah. Repo the Genetic Opera, we should check. Well, no. You probably won't want to watch it. It's too gory.
And we should do Repo Man, the
Yo-
Emilio Estevez film. That movie rules. Just him and Harry Dean Stanton riding around repoing stuff, and then like I don't know, there was like aliens or something.
Oh, yeah.
Wild.
Apparently,
Great
he's
movie.
in Bridgerton also.
Yes, he,
Yes,
he
Simona
plays
told
a
me.
jerk. And honestly, Anthony Stewart Head, who plays Rupert Giles, who is Buffy's school librarian and also her watcher. For those unfamiliar, watchers are essentially the men,
They
because they're
watch.
mostly men. There are some women. But the Watchers Council is supposed to be representative of the patriarchy. So most of the Watchers are men. And they're the ones that train and guide the Slayers. So Buffy and Giles' relationship starts off pretty rocky, but they become one of the closest pairs in the show, and they have a beautiful relationship. And Giles, I wrote a whole blog post on why he's an awesome librarian, because a lot of people said he does disservice to the profession. I beg to differ, because first of all, his true calling is a watcher. He didn't go to library school, but he still is an awesome librarian because he has the books, he has the
'Cause he's
knowledge.
British.
He does the research, and he expects you to do the research as well.
So Sunnydale High School or Sunnydale School District hired somebody to be the librarian that wasn't a librarian?
Well, he was.
To be fair, you don't need a librarian science degree to be a school librarian.
That
you
is
only
incorrect.
Oh,
Under
oh.
5th grade,
Under
you
fi-
don't
oh.
I think
Oh.
he probably magicked his way into it.
No, when you-
that was sort of
no,
the vibe
when
I
you-
He
got.
knows magic now too.
No,
I don't know,
the
but
one-
like,
doesn't
even know how to use
he's
the
involved
internet.
in mystic stuff.
The
true,
Watchers
that's
Council.
true.
The Watchers Council has a lot of influence. I think he gets in because the
Do
They
it.
fudged some records.
well, they have their hands in a lot of places, so that's how he's able to get.
I
'cause-
mean, the
yeah.
principal of Sunnydale High did.
Yeah,
tear
Mr.
up
I want to
Buffy's-
talk about the
Buffy's
principal so
transcripts.
bad.
Principal Flutie.
Worst, good, worst principal I've ever. His whole demeanor. He is not like. The first instant, he's like looking at her transcript and he just rips it. I was like, yo, she's out of here. And he's like, we don't look at this. And I'm like, maybe you should. It's like, you know, you're letting this girl into your school. She's been kicked out of like all these other schools. He's like, fresh start, you got it. And then he meets her at like, she's leaving school. First off, she's leaving school to go on an errand for the librarian to go to a bookstore to get a
Yeah.
book. I'm like,
weird.
first off, he's like, he called her bluff there. I was very excited for him. He was like, are we leaving school and it's only your second day?
And then he locks the gate, though. Like,
Good.
that seems like a bad, everyone's trapped then. Like what if there's a fire?
Well,
There
that's
was a dead body.
but that's the running gag in the show. The running gag too is that Buffy cannot lie to save her life. Like there's even that she was like, "Oh, I suck at this," and she just punches the guy that's just to get past or whatever. A lot of the show is like a running gag. Like there'll be scenes where so and so is fine. I am sure they're fine. And you see them running for their lives or they're almost getting eaten. It's a running gag in the show that she can't lie, she can't go undercover, and she says like, I suck at this. It's
She really do.
If you look at the show, that's
excuse.
that's the point too.
I
Yeah.
was sitting there like, that's the excuse you give to the anything else. Like my mom's sick and she called me. That would have been a 10 times better excuse, but still, I'm like,
Buffy's honest.
you're going on an errand for the librarian.
Says, well, I mean, that's how they do things in Great Britain. They got a whole bunch of mess in the royal families. But over here,
Yeah, so Buffy.
yes.
I had a kind of a hard time with it. And I think part of that is sort of for like, as long as I've been able to recognize like trends in media, Whedon speak has sort of been the default. Like, you know, like Iron Man came out when I was in 4th, 5th grade. So like that sort of like genre where like pitter patter back and forth dialogue has just been the default for me for a very long time. So, like, I totally understand why, like, how they speak in the show would have been refreshing in 1997. And how, like, oh, like, this is really different from other shows on television. But, like, for me now, I was just like, oh, God, this is, like, I don't know. I've been so inundated with it that it loses a lot of that freshness, a lot of that bite that might have been there. Like after they find the dead body in the first episode in the school, like almost immediately the next scene they immediately go into like this patter back and forth of like, oh, he's full dead, he's not a little dead, he's very dead, and I was just
He's
like,
very, very dead.
oh god, somebody died at your school, like this seems like it would call for a little more like
Everyone's going about their
gravity.
day, whatever.
But that's another aspect of the town. That's something you learn. I'm assuming none of you are going to continue watching, but
happens.
that's an aspect of the town. You learn that the town has been that way for hundreds of years. So a lot of people, and it's brought up in one season where it says silence is this town's disease, where stuff will happen and no one bats an eye at it, and they just continue as if, oh, business as usual. So that's also kind of intentional.
So they're just all desensitized to all.
And also, if you're
and
going with the
death
metaphor
and-
as high school as hell, it makes more sense. Also, when you see later, like there's a scene when like there's one season where all of the swim team becomes sea monsters, and there's like a throwaway line like, "We're never gonna win another tournament," and
How did
it's
they
like,
become sea monsters?
well, if you watch season 2, you'll find out how
I
they
gotta
become
know how
sea
they.
monsters.
I thought we were just dealing with like vampires and potential
No,
demons
no,
here.
No, they
but-
go all over
No,
the
the
place.
There's a
lore-
pretty
the lore
creepy
ex-
witch episode.
Yeah,
in
the
season
lore
1.
the lore
Well, I know
expands
Willow is
dramatically.
a witch or something.
She doesn't become a witch till later though.
Oh, okay.
But there's a pretty creepy witch episode in season 1. I think it's the 3rd episode.
Yeah, it's called
I've actually seen that one.
no,
Yeah.
not Teacher's
Yeah.
Pet. That's the praying
I think it's
mantis
called The
episode.
Witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Praying mantis.
It was supposed to deal with teachers' sexual like misconduct. That was the metaphor.
It's pretty creepy.
It's over the. It's a lot of the metaphors, especially in the first season, are like, okay, I get it. You know, they have their whole the internet is bad episode. You know, and
The internet is bad.
no, because like looking at it now, it's like I laugh at the episode too. It's like,
fair.
oh my god! But at the time, the internet and chat forums were very new, so the fear was, and it still is relevant too, because there still are predators on the web. But this episode takes it to a whole new level, and it's very comical in a bad way. I watch and like, oh my god, this is bad, you know. But you know, yeah. But I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I just felt like a lot of the characters kind of talked the same. Like,
They had a very same tone. going.
yeah, like they all seem to have the same reference pools. They all seem to kind of talk in the same style, and except for Willow, and I really like Willow.
She's the only
I was
one
like,
that doesn't
wow.
have that. I would even say Giles for like a
Giles
little bit.
too. Giles is pretty. Yeah,
But
Giles
he started getting
has a
sassy
distinct
towards
voice.
the end of the second episode, and I was like, Giles, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, Giles. He was like, we're all gonna die. And I'm like, yeah, you are. Giles, calm down.
But yeah, like I could definitely see it gelling more as it goes on. But yeah, like and I know like even fans of the show tell you like the first
Like
season's
I
not
would
great.
love, and you can cut this out if you. Would you all be interested in watching season 2?
Yeah.
I will watch all
Just-
of season
Just
1 to
because
get to
I
season
find the
2,
show
because
to
I
be a
hate
little
watching out of
corny
order.
doesn't mean that I would want to continue watching
Yeah,
it.
because I like, and if you're not, you could say no. Like I would love to see if you compare season 1 versus 2, and you could technically watch season 2 without necessarily having to watch season 1. Would you be interested? Because I would love to see what you would think of how the story progresses.
It would be like the Breaking Bad updates.
I wouldn't be against it, but I'm pretty miserable at watching TV.
That's fine.
Even
Yeah.
shows I like, I watch them at a snail's pace.
Do it like what I did with Breaking Bad. It's like we'll come back every week, see if you updated anything.
That's
what you got
true.
going
It
on.
doesn't have to be like an official
Yeah.
thing that we do.
Okay.
It could be like
Better Call Saul.
Just
Buffy,
Buffy
season 2
check-in,
update.
yeah.
Buffy
Okay.
check-in.
All right. I just wanted to throw that out there. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. I was just
No, I think
curious.
that'd be fun.
A Buffy
Okay.
slaying.
Can we talk about Cordelia? 'Cause that's all I want to talk about.
Sure.
I hate Cordelia.
Oh, I love.
They should have let her.
She was
I-
having some insane lines there.
I
What is
let-
your childhood trauma?
Oh, what is your childhood trauma? And I was just like, that's a
That's-
line I gotta
that's
write
like-
down. I'm gonna write that down.
it's like Valley. Like she tried to do a Valley Girl
when she gets like nasty.
Yeah,
She goes full Val. You're like, what?
Also, when Jessie becomes a vampire and then goes up to her, and it's like she doesn't like him at all. And then she's like, what are you doing when he tries to dance with her? And he's like, shut up. And then she likes him. I'm like, oh, that's harsh. That's
She's
bad.
like,
I know what you're saying, but I also kind of took it too because a lot of the times it's not, well, I say this as if I've experienced this, but sometimes it could be like, they tell, like, when men ask, well, what do I need to do to be attracted? And it says, well, okay, well, sometimes it's like, it's not a drastic change because Jesse is still, obviously he's a vampire, but let's say he didn't become a vampire.
Jesse turned into a vampire?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't get that?
She didn't watch the second
I didn't
episode.
see the one. I only saw the first episode.
Spoiler,
He
yes.
becomes a vampire.
He becomes a vampire.
He gets nommed, and then he tries to go back and
Yeah.
on Cordelia, and Cordelia's like, "You," and then he's like, "Shut up."
And then
she's
she
like,
looks.
"Okay."
I don't agree. There are a lot of things, and
They keep calling him a
understanding
stalker and
understanding
everything,
Josh
like,
Whedon,
"You're
it
like,
makes
fuck me,
more
shut
sense.
up."
But I thought also was that, like, even if he hadn't become a vampire, but he basically drew in that confidence. Like, for him, he believes the vampire is what brings out that confidence. I think had Jesse not been transformed, he would have come back to the Bronze with more confidence. Cordelia would have responded to that. Obviously not telling her, shut up and dance
So,
with me, but...
What the hell is the Bronze? Is this just a bar that serves
It's a bar
underage
It's a
kids?
club.
It's
Hard
not a
on
bar.
certain days.
It
It's a
is
club.
They
But
did say it was club.
that place needs to be shut down. That place is.
It looks like it's
tetanus
just
waiting
run
to
out of
happen.
a warehouse.
They don't
Yeah.
card. Cordelia says in the first 2 seconds of the
Alright.
entire show when she meets Buffy, she's like, so we all hang out at this. There's only really one cool place to hang out because it's a small town. It's the only place to really go. It is called, like, whatever this stupid bar is.
Bronze.
The Bronze.
The Bronze.
And she's like, they don't card. And I'm like, oh.
They
And
don't
so
say
she's
they
like,
don't card, they let anyone in, but it's still the scene. Buffy, when you're underage and you see in the later season, they stamp your hand so that you don't get served alcohol. Buffy has to also pay a certain fee because she's underage and she drinks Coke. They won't serve you.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Cordelia's drinking.
I did think that they said you don't card because
No.
I remember paying. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, because that was what I heard.
No,
I
I'm
heard
not
her say
being
they don't
mean.
card.
No, they said they let anyone in, but it's still the scene. Sorry, I didn't mean. No, they
To
said
be
they
fair,
let.
the bouncer in the second episode when the vampires come in, they're like, "Yo, I gotta check your cards." Like,
Yeah.
I gotta check. Yo, come back here. And they're like, "Whatever."
He says, I need ID, and Buffy pays, like, maybe they charge $1. I think that's how she indicates she's
Yeah.
underage.
And then in the second episode,
Yeah.
they said they don't. There's no cover on Friday nights, but why are they paying a cover fee then?
Because they're underage. Maybe it's like
This is-
maybe it's an underhanded
I don't
bar.
like
What do
this
you want?
place regardless. It needs
They're
to
the
be
only
cool
place in
it
town,
needs
so
to
they're
be
gonna
investigated.
exploit
It's sketchy. I'm not letting my kid go there,
Where's the
and it's
help
overrun
today?
with vampires. Not letting my
Constantly.
kid go.
Also, the music coming out of that place, I absolutely loved it. It brought me back to nostalgia. I love 90s grunge. And so I love the scene in the second episode. Literally, Cordelia's like, "Oh, I love this song," and then she goes down, and she's like dancing to it, and then it ends, and she's like, "Okay, I'm done." And I'm like, "Like that's it? You don't want to hear anything else from them?" I'm like, "No, go get back down there." And I'm like,
I liked Cordelia.
I
I was a
wanted
fan.
her to get her blood sucked so bad by that guy. She was like, "Ah," and I was just like, "Do it!" And then Buffy's like, "Save." And I'm like,
Xander needs to like fall down the stairs or something. I wanted bad things.
Yeah,
to
he
happen
was
to
kind of
him.
annoying.
We
He
clearly
was
have
more annoying
characters
than I
in the show
remember
who
him
want
being.
bad things
But
to
I
happen.
think he gets less annoying as the show goes on.
Does Cordelia
Just
get
in that
less
first
annoying?
episode,
Yes.
he felt
Thank
like
God.
all of the guys from Friends fused into one, and I couldn't handle him. He would just-
Because he's very much like Josh. Like, a lot of the characters are
He's trying.
point blank stereotypes. They are.
Yeah.
So Cordelia is the typical mean girl.
I
She
thought
gets
Cordelia was nice at the very first instance.
She
She's like,
gets
"Tell
some
me,
layered."
Buffy. Like,
No.
she's got the book. She's like, "Oh, you're looking for the book? Here." And then she starts showing around the school. And then she meets Willow. And she's like, who gave you permission to exist? And I'm like, I remember those insults.
Yeah, my mother was saying, like, oh my god, like I was watching
I
that
hate her.
episode. It's hard, but yeah, Xander was supposed to be the stereotypical nerd that kind of has a sense of entitlement to the good-looking girl. That's the point. Like, there are moments when like his character is very despicable. Then there are moments where his character shows some depth and actual like intelligence or whatever. But he gets older. They're supposed to also be 16. I know they act like they're 40, but they're supposed to be 16
To be
years
fair,
old.
I've just taken a lot of these shows where they, like,
Yeah.
you know, they look, the adults in the 90s
Yeah.
are playing teens.
Buffy
and-
dropped a Wild Bunch reference in the second episode, and I was like, come on. Is
They
a
have a lot of
16-year-old girl in
dated
97
references.
watching Sam Peckinpah westerns?
They could.
She moves around.
They could, but, like, I don't know.
But that's a criticism of, like, some people criticizing the dog was that it's not reflective of how teens speak. So that is the criticism.
To
Basically,
be fair, those insults I did hear when I
no,
was
but
growing
like,
up.
but like
I've said them a couple
some of the
times.
literary references, like at one point Buffy says she makes Godot look punctual. So like some of the things, like you're wondering, okay, would a teen know certain things?
I would have dropped that in high school, regrettably. So,
Doe? I think we used Doe for like one
No,
year.
Godot.
Godot.
A Godot.
Waiting for Godot, the Samuel Beckett play.
Oh, see, didn't
The
know that.
joke of it is Godot never
I
shows
know what
up.
it is. No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
so
I don't think I would have known that in the 90s as a
Yeah,
child.
well, she made also a bunch of other references. At some point, I couldn't get what the reference was. Like I didn't. But even the way she talks, like the especially what's the sitch? That's an actual Cali expression.
That's fine.
But Sarah didn't know that because
That's
she's from New
impossible.
York. So she was saying that some of the way that she had to talk in the show was difficult for her because some of the expressions she genuinely did not know what they meant.
yeah, I didn't know. I don't know.
Yeah, what
Maybe
am
this
I
could have just been like a
saying?
90s Valley thing. But when those
Yeah.
girls were saying pause and neg instead of yes and no, I was like, oh,
I never
good
heard the
Lord.
word pause. Neg I heard, but not pause. But
I didn't-
neg, when
yeah.
they said neg,
I
I thought it was a different term, and I was like,
I kind of thought the girl said pog at first, like the Twitch emo, and I
Poggers.
was like, what?
But don't you kind of love it? She says like,
same
what
thing.
kind of a name is Buffy anyway? And her name is Aphrodisia.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Yeah,
her
like,
name was Aphrodisia.
Yeah.
it's just like, what?
And
Hey,
that's-
Aphrodisia.
Yeah, that's obviously like an intentional comedic thing there.
Yeah.
She's like, what kind of name is Buffy? And then the person walks by, hey, Aphrodisia.
But yeah.
And then they find the dead body that nobody cares
Yes.
about.
In her locker. Also, I did hear I forget what it's called, but there's the scream. There was one
The
scream.
Wilhelm scream?
There's a female one. The
Oh, okay.
female one.
Is
There's
it
the
the-
one that's the I don't know. I can't do it well.
Was it the one taken from Fay Ray and King Kong?
It might have been.
I
It
know
was in
that
the
one
club
gets reused
scene
a
where
lot.
someone got knocked down on the ground, and I heard the scream. I'm like, oh, there's that background scream. But I know the Wilhelm scream. We went through a rabbit hole. Me and Brian went through a rabbit hole of that because he thought he discovered it. He was like, oh, it's called the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are
Y-
talking
about.
you know
There
in
are-
Star Wars when someone gets shot and they go,
They go, ah!
Oh.
yeah, that's just a sound effect that gets reused all the time. It's like a stock library sound. And
Oh, okay.
It's like an insert. But they did it in Buffy
You
with
can
like one of
look
the
it up on
female
YouTube
ones. You
and
can
hear it.
find. It's
Okay.
usually
Yeah.
I'll just play it right now. We don't have to worry about copyrights. The goddamn Wilhelm scream.
That's pretty much public. That is public.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's ones for like women's screams too, like they use, and they did it in Buffy. I heard it and I was like, ah, there it is.
Oh no, that's an ad.
Ad.
Shut up, TikTok. I
Sponsors.
don't want to watch an ad.
Oh, don't sponsor. Kind of sponsor. I don't know. Do what you want. Sponsors.
Oh.
That's a Willow.
You've heard, you've heard it.
It's,
Oh,
it's called the Wilhelm scream.
Oh, okay. And I'm sorry, why is it called the Wilhelm scream?
I think the guy who
Who
did
did
it
the
was named
scream?
Wilhelm.
Yeah.
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 No, the guy. Yeah.
Buster Wilhelm.
Got it. Okay. All right.
I don't
great.
think that was his name, but
No.
Could be.
Okay.
Amanda's gonna do her research.
Cameron.
Yeah, it was either Buster or David.
Yeah, and you're lying through your teeth with that one.
this dude's gonna have like the most German name imaginable.
Frankfurter. Oh,
That's a hot
boy.
dog.
It is a hot.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
it was done by a man named Sheb Woolley.
Yep.
That was close.
I don't know where they got Willow from.
I think the character was named that, and then it just kind of stuck.
So it could be Buster Wilhelm.
Okay, he named it after. Yeah, it was named after a character, Private Wilhelm. But that was not who Sheb Woolley was.
So what was Private Wilhelm's
He was
first
a
name?
singer.
I don't know.
I think. Wooly. Anyways, Joyce, Buffy's mom.
Joyce, poor mom.
Good job putting the foot down in the second episode. She was like,
said,
Mom,
"No."
I've got to go. And she was like, I know you, I don't like saying it. I know you don't want to hear the word.
But
no. And I'm
but
like,
the
to be
books
fair,
tell me.
to be fair, like, we understand why Buffy needs to go and destroy the vampires. But the mom's like, no. And I'm like, she's clearly a mom who has dealt with her daughter, you know, effing up in school
Yeah.
and, you know.
She had enough.
She had
to move.
She gotta put the foot down. And I'm like, good
Joyce
for
had to
you,
move.
Joyce. Get it,
She
girl.
done
Yeah,
with
Buffy's
Buffy.
mom did nothing wrong.
No.
She doesn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Buffy could tell her, might put her in a psych ward. But,
Listen.
Funny you should mention that.
no!
That's all I'm gonna say.
There was also one scene that does live rent-free in my mind right now. There's a scene where Buffy is fighting a vampire. I think it's the first vampire in the alley. And she somehow jumps up and she's on a bar and she's straight up. Like, she's not even
That's
tilting.
when she hits
That's
Angel.
when she
Tilting.
hits. That's
Yeah.
when she hits.
She's
Angel.
very strong.
It
Yeah.
made me laugh really hard. I was watching it, and she's not even like teetering in any shape or the form. She's just straight.
That's
So-
that's upper body strength right there.
Simona,
That's
Yes.
Little more.
I know there was a movie that came first.
Yes.
Is the show intended as like a sequel to the film?
No. So
Okay.
with regards to the first movie, which came out in the early '90s, and Kirsty Swanson stars as Buffy. When Josh Whedon proposed it, he did not like the direction the film went in, because he felt as if the film was not taking the subject matter seriously. So as far as he's concerned, that film does not exist.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
just curious because it sort of just opened up with like, oh, okay, already she's
Yeah.
a Slayer and already like stuff has gone
yeah,
down.
so for him, in his mind, when he was able to do the show, that is the true content that he wanted, because he wanted Buffy to be taken seriously. Yeah, there are a lot of comedic elements, but he felt as if the film destroyed his original intent, so he does not even like it. I watched that film. It's too campy, and I know, coming from someone, we've just watched the first episode, as Amanda said, it's camp. That film is very campy, and I watched it just to say that I watched it, but I would never watch it again. I can see why Josh Whedon was not happy with it. Yeah, so no, it's not it's supposed to be Josh's improvement upon what the executives did to his original material. So, I'm sorry, that was a long-winded.
No, that's
no,
fine.
it's not. Yeah, it's not a sequel. But yeah, when the show opens up, Buffy has already been slaying for about a year or two. Yeah.
Slaying.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think that's like, isn't that like a term nowadays?
Yeah, it
Like
is.
slay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. She's been slaying it. She's been slaying it for a year. You sounded very. She's been slaying it for a year.
It's like
Fam.
dancing on the floor, got them good moves, like
Yeah.
slay queen. Yes.
Slaying it.
Lewis learned
Oh, and the
Bobby's
reference
slang.
to you burn down the gym. In the original film, she does burn down the gym because there's a basketball game, and Buffy is a cheerleader in the film. And the game, one of the basketball player ends up being a vampire, so she has to burn down the gym in order to get rid of the other vampires that come in. So, unless you had seen the original film, you would not have understood what that reference is, but that's what
that's
they're
pretty
talking
funny.
about. Because when she was in LA, in order to get rid of the vampires who had overrun the gym, she had to burn it down. Of course, she couldn't say, I burned it down because of vampires. So at one point, there's a funny line in a later season. She says, the fire marshal said it could have been rats. So the principal goes, rats? Rats that were smoking? Like, basically she says something like that. You know, so, and the joke also is that principals change left and right. That's another running joke
Oh, it's like
throughout
the Harry
show.
Potter Defense Against
Yes,
the Dark Arts teachers constantly can't keep
exactly.
their
So,
position.
like how the Defense Against the Dark Art teacher never remains the same year after year, the principals are always changing in Sunnydale High as well.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, so
I
there's...
hope they put the foot down more.
Yeah, well, I liked Principal Flutie. I wish he would have been given a chance. I liked Flutie.
I think tearing up someone's transcript right in front of you. First off, getting a transcript is like a pain in the butt. First off, you have
Yeah.
to like go through this process of like being able to find your account and then sending the transcript. I can't imagine what it's like to have a high school transcript. I assume those just kind of always send over. But like,
I think
at least for like a
everything's
college
digitized now.
transcript, it's like you can send it, but then they're like we don't want this copy. We want the official. And they're like, you gotta spend money to get the official. You gotta do all this. It's a pain in the butt.
But what I also
and he
like,
just goes.
well, what I like about Flutie too is that at first he's telling her, and this is another thing with Buffy too, how people make assumptions about her, that she can't amount to anything. There's like, it sort of runs throughout the show where even Buffy's self-esteem, there are moments when she's extremely confident, where she feels so dejected because of how others perceive her. So it's interesting how he rips to say a fresh start, but then when he looks closer, he starts taping it together. And notice in the second episode, he says, if I were a student on my second day and in my previous school I got kicked out, I would be more careful. So he hasn't forgotten her transcripts. And I think that's another dig at her. We're basically saying, I haven't forgotten that you screwed up in your first high school. Don't do it now. So he's preachy about how we don't worry about those things. We are kind in this place. And he basically shows her that he's aware of how she messed up in the first one.
Was Donald Sutherland her watcher in the movie?
In the movie, yes.
I remember
I
that.
love him.
Yeah, and I like it in the movie, and I'm glad they didn't include this in the drama. You know how she knows when vampires are near? It's very on the nose.
I don't remember.
She gets menstrual cramps.
Stop it.
Oh.
Really?
Stop it right
She says,
now.
she's like, my PMS is my superpower.
Stop it
Great.
right now.
Yeah, she gets menstrual cramps. Thankfully, they got rid of that in the drama, but in the movie, she's like,
Why?
ow. Because I think
get it, blood.
because also
Yeah.
even the
it's-
whole vampire, it's a metaphor for sexuality, and also with Buffy, a lot of the metaphors are like, there's this one scene which I love because Buffy doesn't stand for it. There's a guy who basically, after they have their date, he basically comes on to her very aggressively, and she takes that and smashes him against the steering wheel. And he goes like this, and when they're in the office, the coach goes, and dress more appropriately. You're not in a disco. This is a school. So it's like that sexual week. That's it. So in the film, she goes, so PMS is my superpower. Great. And she walks away. Like, I'm glad they didn't keep that because that would have been truly, but
I hate it. I hate that
It
song.
would have been cringy.
yeah, it is very cringy.
Yeah, no, I don't.
But can
like
you
that.
imagine? I'm getting cramps. There's a vampire nearby.
No.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it.
Paperclip.
I've never seen the movie. Don't want to watch it. if that's the one thing, I'm not watching.
Yeah, and also Buffy is very
There's
much.
so many different ways you could do it with blood. Like, there are like other stories that are like, oh, like you go cold because your blood running cold, or at least like you kind of feel like.
But I don't even know if
something
that's
in the
where they
vein.
were
Or like
going
a
with
spidey
that.
sense.
Exactly, like a spidey sense.
Yeah.
But
I was
cramps.
But I wonder if
if we're
that's
not
where they
already
were going
tormented
with
by
that.
cramps, it's a superpower now. And I'm like, stop. And despite the fact that she lives in an entire community that has like a gajillion vampires clearly running around, how much pain is she in? Like all the time. She's like, oh, well.
What's
I
That's
hate
up?
life.
that. I would hate that.
That's life.
All the Advil in the world could not cure me.
Yeah.
That would suck.
So thankfully they took that out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Because when they were trying to like, when Giles is like, "Do you ever like feel anything? Do you got anything?" She's like, "No."
Well, it's funny because the show plays around with that because, and I think that's what kind of.
why Angel's always there. He's like, "I know you can't sense them, so I'm just gonna
But
pop in here."
But the
for
thing that's
plot."
interesting is that when it suits the plot, because the whole thing with the Slayer is that they not only have physical prowess, but they also have a more magical, and you learn the origin of the Slayer anyway. There's a whole reason why they are the way they are. So there are moments when Buffy has that sense where she's aware that someone is behind her, or she's aware that something isn't quite right. She has prophetic dreams, because part of like the first time you see her, she's having this nightmare.
Yeah.
And Giles says, well, the signs could be wrong. It's like, you haven't been having those nightmares, have you?
She's
So
like,
part of being a Slayer is prophetic abilities as well. So the show plays around with those things sometimes where she will be able to sense, no, you're not right. Like there's another scene when she sees a guy walking with this girl and she says, I don't think he thrives on sunshine. And she follows him and she knows he's a vampire. So part of what I always wondered is how could she not tell Angel was a vampire? Like, until he actually full on, like, morphs like his face, like that didn't make much sense to me. It was almost like done for the sake of drama to make it more horrifying for her, because that's just she's starting to realize she likes him, you know, and that's when he reveals his face.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like, how do you not know that he's a like even watching it the first time around, like back when I was a kid.
Seriously though, you knew?
Of course, he's only walking around at night. Like what? Like,
Who?
you know, like
Angel.
he's
I
walking
mean,
around
the
in
first scene you
mausoleums.
see him in.
He's not afraid of getting bitten or anything like that.
But he could have been, as Joe assumed, he could have been someone within
He
the
was
business
hot,
of.
Simona.
Yeah, I mean, he knew he was a vampire. Come on.
He was hot, walking around in an alleyway, doing his little swag.
I saw
move.
2 episodes, so I didn't get to spend more time with him. I thought maybe I would have picked up. I don't know.
No, honestly,
Very
I think
confident in
even
the
with
alleyway.
viewers, the reveal was surprising to viewers. I think if I remember correctly, they were not expecting him to be a vampire.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that was not a shock to me.
yeah.
No.
I think it's a good place to, as a final discussion topic here, is to talk about the library.
The library
Itself.
is
I-
amazing.
Oh, all right. I do have one issue there. Thank
you
you
go.
for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Amanda.
Giles there's one part where Giles is at there's 3 bookcases. He's at one of them. And then Buffy comes in, starts spewing shit about vampires and slayers and all this
Not
stuff.
very discreet.
Then they walk out and Xander is just behind one of the
no, that made me
bookcases.
mad too. I was like, come on.
Terrible librarian. Giles, come on. Pay attention to your surroundings. You're a watcher and you did not see him? Do you
Your one
understand?
job you literally established is to watch!
You are
Throw
terrible.
in a loose ship.
Yeah, you are.
That's a very pretty, like, you know, a very pretty, like, old-looking academia. I like the little chair and table.
I have another problem with that too. What kind of library is this? There is one table to sit at. Also, another problem.
We don't know if there's just one. We've only seen that part of the library.
That has to be it, though. There's no way they like turn the camera around and there's like a whole like
Have you
wing.
seen how large this school is?
The others, once in other episodes later on, obviously we don't see it here. There's like a cage in there. Don't they put werewolf in there at one point?
But that's
That's
the running
usually-
gag that no one
No,
ever
no,
comes
I
to the
understand it, and I
library.
don't mind it and everything like that.
But then but it's
Except Willow. Willow goes to
No,
the
no,
library.
like don't take
Can't
this
stop
as like an
talking about
offense to the
it.
show or anything like that. Like I don't mean it as like an offense to the show. It's just more
I'm
comical.
wearing my Buffy shirt.
I mean it in more of a comical way.
But yeah, but and I understand.
your
I understand what you mean, because there are a lot of times when it's like the showrunners address that, because and this was at the time before like forums were slowly starting to grow, and they were saying that a lot of people were pointing out certain things. So one of the running gags of the show is that no one ever comes in the library, and when they do, they're promptly told to leave. That was one of the running gags.
So Willow never spends her time in the library.
No.
Got it. I always thought because she talks about going
Well,
to the
Willow
library
does. Well,
constantly.
they're talking about, so the core group of characters, like, and they call themselves the Scooby Gang. And since we talked about Scooby Doo in an episode that you haven't yet watched, but you will watch by the time you see this. So Xander, Willow, Giles, Buffy, later Cordelia to some extent, they become the Scooby Gang. So they're the core group of people. And the library, because with the show, thinking of the show, they had a limited budget, limited sets. There had to be one area where they could shoot every character at once. So when they were in the high school, that gathering place was the library. In later seasons, it becomes Giles' home becomes like the focal central meeting point when they have to discuss something. So due to the constraints of the show, they had to have a spot where it was large enough where you could film every actor and it would make sense that they would all be there.
Again,
so that's
I'm not-
why the library became
Right.
that.
I'm not. It's not a
Yeah.
critique of the show.
Yeah.
It's a critique of the character, and in a comical way.
And I guess
You know what I mean?
also-
I understand all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's really it's
And
not
Giles
a personal.
and Giles
Yeah.
is very absent-minded. There are times when he's sharp as a whip, and then it's like other times like, I can't believe you survived this long. And that's also a running joke. Like people will tell him, how have you not died yet?
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. I think they had to find a way for Xander to get to know her secret, I guess in the most believable way possible. But then when you think about it, he gets kidnapped or almost kidnapped, so maybe they could have saved the reveal for when she goes to meet him at the bronze. She's like, we need to find Willow, like help me find her. That probably could have been a better way to reveal her secret than he's been in the library the entire time while you're having this full-on conversations about vampires. Yeah. So I see what you mean.
Yeah, but again, it was fine. I mean,
No, but logically I see what you're saying too,
Yeah.
because especially since shortly after he comes to the bronze and she says, I need you to help me find Willow, he would have learned eventually.
Yeah, and all I'm
So-
saying is we're trusting Giles, this guy, to help the protector of the world from vampires and demons and the forces of darkness.
And he lets the dumbest guy in the school
Yeah.
find out.
And he did not see that there was somebody else there. Giles,
He's too busy trying to like
Step
deal
your
with
game up.
Buffy's like stuff and
step your game up. Or maybe he needs to hire a page to shelve the books or something.
or maybe they need to hire 2 librarians.
Yeah.
Well, when you even think about it, when you think about logistics, like even the books they
If it's that
have that
small,
are
maybe
mixed
2
in
isn't
with the other
necessary.
collection, like they're books that no one would think to find in a public school library. Like that's also, it's part of the running gag of the whole show. Like no one comes in there, everyone's oblivious to what's going on or whatever. Yeah, it is funny they hide the werewolf in the cage thing and it's like, I don't know. That
There's
is
a
funny.
cage eventually in one of the.
Well, no, the cage
No,
is
it's
still
already
there.
It's in the first episode. That's how she finds him. Is that in the background? He goes, "Who are you?" And there's like a cage
Was
right
that supposed
behind
to be a
him.
British accent? Try that again.
No, I'm good.
It sounded.
I wasn't trying
sounded
super
Russian.
hard.
That
You were
is
like,
judgy.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Oh, I gotta find the pilot episode. If you thought the first season was atrocious, I'm gonna send you the pilot episode.
Wasn't this the pilot?
No.
Oh, they've got an unaired pilot.
Had the pilot aired, the show would have sunk before it would have been like the Titanic. I will send you that pilot episode. And you'll know new heights of acting, horrific dialogue. I was like, thank God you never aired this. Because you would have failed miserably.
So all this
It's
being
that bad.
all this being said,
Yeah.
the first and second episode are entertaining. They're not, they're not the best, but because I have seen the show and I know the show, I know that it gets better. So is it worth watching? Would I watch it? Yes. My vote is yes. Ding for yes. I would continue watching it because it gets better, and they haven't even introduced the best characters yet. You haven't seen the best of Angel yet. You haven't seen Spike yet. You haven't seen Drusilla yet. Drusilla.
No, she's an awesome character.
Yeah. She's insane. That's why I like her.
Her face
Metaphorically
scares
and literally.
Yeah.
me. She's got these piercing blue eyes.
Yeah.
Scary.
Like the actress, James Marsters, and I can't remember the actress who plays Drusilla. What's her name?
Juliet Lando.
They were talking about there's this epic scene when actually I'm not going to spoil anything. Never mind.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
But they were talking
We're
about
gonna have Buffy updates.
how they played that. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything. It's they're
Buffy check-in.
They're one of the best couples, not in terms of like they're not couple goals by any means, but their dynamic is interesting to watch.
They are not ship goals.
They are, well, they could be. No, but
Couple goals and ships are different.
yeah.
Ships are like you want to put 2 people, you want them to be in a relationship.
Okay, here-
Couple goals is like if you're already in a relationship or like when you date somebody.
So
that's
you're
a
telling me
goal.
that a
That's what you
ship
want.
cannot be 2 people that are already together.
No, there are like,
Ships are usually people.
but there are.
That's when the ship sails.
I think you're just.
That's why they call it a ship.
I thought I understood this.
No, like a ship could be like in a show.
Fandom terms.
The
It's just like you're taking an egg beater and going.
Come to me for all your fandom.
well, when we play our game, I'll explain it before we play the game.
I thought you did explain it, and I thought I understood.
Well, because-
ships are just you want those 2 to get together.
I mean,
and then
they
your
could-
ship sails when they do.
A ship could be, for example, let's talk about Harry Potter. I'll give you like there are a few ships with Harry Potter. There's Harry and Hermione. There's Hermione and Ron, and Hermione and Ron end up becoming a ship that actually sails. They are an end couple. But there's also like Hermione and Draco. That's obviously a fan ship.
Wrong.
We'll debate that. There's Hermione and Draco. That's not a ship that sails, but it's a ship within the fandom.
I liked Hermione and Victor.
That's also
cool.
another
Yeah,
ship.
no.
Yeah.
That's a ship
He was
within
a
the
gentleman.
fandom.
Yeah, I thought that was the best ship
Shark.
of them all. Is that a
Yeah.
ship?
Yeah.
That's a ship. Yeah, it
Yeah.
exists
Yeah.
within the fandom.
Yep.
Lit. No, bet.
There you go. There you go.
All right, so Lou got a yes, he would continue to watch.
100%.
But I feel like that's more based on the fact that you kind of already know the show.
Roger that. It is. Bet.
Well, since I only just watched the first episode and it was on a to be continued,
That's
and
why I went to the second episode.
despite the corniness of it, I would watch it.
Amanda?
I feel like I wouldn't binge watch it, but I definitely would put it in, like, you know, if there was like, if I was done watching my shows for the week and be like, I'd put it in my rotation. Maybe
So
like,
that's a check mark.
yeah,
Yeah.
when all the shows I'm excited to see are there, I'd be like, okay. I'm like, I'll catch up on Buffy.
Cool.
I don't know. Joss Whedon's writing gets under my skin.
Fair enough.
That's fair.
I'm not gonna lie, it is very dated.
It's not even the dated elements I don't care about. It's just I don't know. There's a glibness to the dialogue that does not resonate with me.
I might give it like another like 2 episodes and see how I feel about or I'll try to get to season 2 and I'll try to see if I feel like the dialogue might get a little
It does.
better.
Just Google what happens in season 1.
No.
And then
No.
just start season 2.
What I will
No.
say is the dialogue
Won't
does
do
get
it.
better in season 2. There are some of the Josh Whedon isms in there, like it's called Buffy speak. That's what it's officially referred to as. But the dialogue gets better because the writers change as well. Like there are moments when it does get really good. The metaphors improve. The overall, it has the more cohesive storyline or narrative story per season. So it does get a lot better. The writers change too.
Yeah,
So
WB's like, yeah, let's throw a little bit more money into this. 'cause,
yeah.
you know.
So and some of like the budgets improved a little bit with certain things, but yeah. If you don't mind the dated nature of the show, it's worth a watch. If you don't mind the fact that it is dated.
Well, I mean, I you know, the few things that I've seen Sarah Michelle in, I've never really liked her in it. And I mean, I felt kind of the same with Buffy, but just the lore alone and the other characters that are involved. It's not just her I'm seeing, but
Yeah.
like a cast of characters, and I
Yeah.
definitely want to see how the story progresses, which is why I would watch
Cool.
it again.
Yeah, and if we wanted to do like almost like a like have you watched it, what do you think, kind of, instead of watching the entire season, I can understand because it's 22 episodes.
Oh, not me.
Yeah, the first season's 10, the second season and then on I think it's like 22 episodes.
A lot.
Yeah.
You didn't like Scooby-Doo?
I didn't watch Scooby-Doo growing up
I
all
love
that much.
Scooby-Doo.
You didn't like Sarah Michelle Gellar in that?
Oh, in the live action movies?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just a
Play
Daph.
the Daphne. Play
Yeah,
Daphne.
she
And she's
Daphne.
returning
She's
to
good
television
Daphne.
in a werewolf drama.
Wait, what?
Yeah, she's returning to I won't be able to watch it though,
It's
of
not
course.
the Teen Wolf
Why
one,
not?
is it?
Because I don't remember, but when I saw I was like, Sarah, she's returning to the supernatural world. It's werewolves though this time.
I'm so excited.
Is she going to be a werewolf hunter?
No. I think she's like an FBI agent or something.
Naturally.
She's involved.
So it's like X-Files, but just for werewolves.
I don't know too much. I
We'll
watched the
find out,
trailer
'cause I
because
love werewolves.
I was like, oh, it's Sarah because it's her return to television. So that makes me excited, but I don't think I'll be able to watch it.
She was in a movie. I'm almost positive it was called
Yes.
Simply Irresistible, where she was a magical cook,
Beautiful.
and
Hallmark.
I remember my sister was also obsessed with Buffy, like just like too much. She actually wrote a letter to David Boreanaz, and he sent her a signed picture. I was like, oh my god.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do I sense jealousy? Because I guarantee, could you write a letter to Drusilla and she came back
Actually,
to you?
back then my love interest was Allison Hannigan. I hadn't developed my love for psychotic women yet.
Lewis's toxic trait.
Yeah. So at the time, I was into Allison Hannigan, and I wrote a letter to Allison Hannigan, and she did not write me a letter back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Lily.
excited about that.
Yeah.
Where are they airing it?
But this
Paramount
Simply
Plus.
Irresistible movie,
Don't worry.
Sarah Michelle Gellar plays this like magical chef,
January.
and the food that she cooks like has some magical effect on people where they like fall in love or something like that. It was horrible. It was terrible. Then so we watched that, and she puts like this, like, I remember this purple sauce on the food, and I was like, that doesn't even look good.
Oh, who was that celebrity that invented their own kind of steak sauce, but it was pink?
Oh, the pink sauce lady? Pink sauce was a real sauce. The problem was,
Oh, it wasn't
is that it was
celebrity.
never FDA approved. So when she sent it to people were actually getting sick and had to go to the hospital because it did contain things that
it
when
Pepto?
shipped. No. So she actually made it, but she handmade it at home. And the problem was that when she shipped it, she didn't send it in like coolers or anything. So it wasn't like FDA, it didn't get tested or go
Oh,
to
okay.
like FDA approval or anything to be sent out. So when it shipped, the food went bad because it needed to be cooled and sent. It's not like Heinz ketchup or anything like that where it was made so that it could travel. She didn't have that stuff that allowed it, so people ended up getting sick, and it took one person on YouTube to actually send it and get it tested to figure out what was in it, and it was just bad.
Oh.
So the sauce itself is a legitimate sauce. I forget what region it comes from, but that was the whole deal with that one.
Oh, okay.
Why would you want to eat pink sauce?
Well, because it's a cultural sauce. It goes with a dish. It is what it is. I forget
This
what-
person didn't invent it?
No, she did not invent it. She just marketed it,
Oh.
and then
okay.
she tried to sell it, and then
So I'm just picturing like pink.
Yes.
I'm picturing
You can't buy it
Pepto Bismol
necessarily.
on a steak.
That's what.
That's what I'm
That's
picturing.
what I
yeah,
was
it's mainly
picturing.
I think like a rice. It's for like a rice dish kind of deal, but you can put it on anything, and people really like the sauce because you can make it yourself. But the problem was is she was trying to market it so people who couldn't make it or didn't want to make it or get the ingredients could have it, and she never went through the proper channels, and she sent it out, and
The food
it by the
went
time it got to
rotten.
people's houses, it
It
was
was
expired and
gross.
gross because you can't do that. It's kind of like making food at home and then not
Yeah.
refrigerating it, and then it gets curdled and gross and all that ingredients like that. It's bad. It's bad
So-
for you. It's bad bacteria.
So, if we want to close out, I can close out the episode if we want to go ahead and do that, or unless you
Buffy
have
needs to
anything.
get on the pink sauce.
All right, so this was part 2 of our Would You Watch series where we discussed Buffy. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time when we will be discussing Who's Pick.
Time out.
Yeah.
Don't cut this. I thought you were going to do the intro for us.
Oh, I
you
could.
know. But you got to do it with flair. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like, you got to
okay.
get up for it. You got to get jazzed. Do people still say jazzed? No.
I use
I say it
that.
occasionally.
Yeah.
Like the way I did when I delivered the
I'll
I'm
the
looking for a better
intro.
word than excited.
I'll do it my way, and then Joe will use his magical skills to make me sound a lot more awesome than I do.
Well, can you put, like, a filter on our voice? Do they do
I'm
that?
bad with voice filters. It's dumb.
Look,
It's
just
tough.
put a black and white. Put her in black and white, and like slow it down.
I'll give it a
We'll
shot.
get a fog machine.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't want me to do the traditional closing, and then do
No.
this?
Do the traditional closing with that in a voice.
Oh, I'm not gonna do a voice.
Action.
I'm not gonna do a voice. Okay. So now I
With
feel
dramatic flair,
pressured.
though. Just dramatic.
I
I'm not
can't.
looking
This
at
is
you.
how
How about that? I'm
this
not
is
looking
this
at
is
you.
how I felt when
Okay.
Luke put the spot
I
on
won't
me.
look at you.
Okay, I will do it. Okay.
Listen, we're stepping our game up now.
Put my hood
Okay.
up.
Okay.
We're professionals now.
Okay. Into every generation, a Slayer is born. One girl in all the world, a chosen one.
Why aren't you reading it like this, though?
Because,
Like the guy that introduced it.
Listen, Lou.
Do it.
Lou.
Every generation.
Lou.
And
Lou.
you do it.
I don't want my voice to go. I can do it, but then I will get into a hacking coughing fit, and ain't nobody gonna find that fun. So let me read it as I want to read it, and then Joe is gonna make me awesome. Do you have any problems with it?
I mean, kind of.
How about
but
this?
the-
Let us
Tough
read it.
I'm reading it the way I want to read it.
Oh, this is the Simone I've been waiting
for.
for. I like it.
You tell him, Simona.
Been waiting for this Simone for 4 years.
Go ahead.
Don't
Go.
worry about it. More will come out.
She's here.
Stop it.
There's the voice.
I can't read like that. My voice will go.
Shush.
I'll come over there.
Actually, do you want to read it, Amanda?
Do you want me to?
No,
Yeah, you read it.
Simone, it's your thing.
No,
You got it.
I'm
I
not
lost
looking.
it now. I don't have the momentum.
Get jazzed. Let's get her jazzed again.
No, you don't need to get me
What was the
jazzed.
guy who
Simona.
turned into the vampire?
Lewis?
Second episode, Jason?
Lewis, shut
Jesse.
up.
Jesse? Lewis.
Jesse?
Shut up.
Oh, Amanda.
Okay.
That's pathetic.
I can't do it. It's not gonna work. I can't do it. But anyway, I'm just gonna close out like this. So thank you for joining us for part 2 of our Would You Watch series. As always, like and subscribe. We appreciate every subscriber. And a shout out to our subscriber who mentioned that he thought we were librarians and awesome because of our podcast. We love you to death. Thank you so much for that. 156th subscribe. We are going places, people. Okay, bye.
Bye.